sure thing. Change, change. Expect a miracle change. Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Now do 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 change. Do 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 change. Do 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 change. Do do do.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are coming to us from today, or any other time that you choose to watch our show online. Thank you for being here. My name is Cheryl Rogers, and I co-host the show today with my wonderful
Mark Dupuy.
Mark Dupuy.
I'm coming in from Kitchener.
Thank you. And knowing that we have people in different time zones, we want to let you know that we are in Canada, Ontario more specifically. That's where we, Marg and I, are coming to you from. And so we just want to read our land acknowledgement for here. We work, live, and play on the historical and traditional territory of many First Nations. And as we gather on Turtle Island, we as settlers are grateful for the opportunity to meet here. And we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, including the Métis, Inuit, and all other Indigenous peoples. Also acknowledging that as we continue to grow and expand on these lands, there are still unresolved and dangerous inequality and discriminations towards our BIPOC and 2S LGBTQ plus family. By making these acknowledgements, we strive to be allies and take an active part in reconciliation. We recognize our oneness. We realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. We are one. Miigwech.
Well, now it is my privilege to introduce my dear friend, Laura Quirk. Laura she's coming back. She was with us a few weeks back, and we said, you must come back. You have so much to share. Laura is a full-time professor. She's been teaching at the university level since 1996. Laura has MS, and she was on a disability for 17 years. And during that 17 years, she got several degrees, undergraduate in archaeology, a master's in anthropology, a master's of history, and a PhD in history with a minor in archaeology. And she also owned an art gallery at one point. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
There she is.
Thank you so much. Boy, when I hear all those things I've done, I think, wow, I must be really tired or something. Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Laura, I'm going to bring forward the Joy Project to
Hope
our
Project.
Spirit Cap.
The Hope Project.
That one. Yeah, the whole project. So the Spirit Cafe is about courageous conversations. And I do know that the Hope Project, it took courage for you to bring it into fruition because you spoke of your life's journey. Now I'm going to sit back and ask you to share what
Thank
you would
you.
like on that.
Thanks so much, Marg. Yes. Wow. So first of all, I have asthma, so if I'm coughing like right now, my apologies. So, wow, the Hope Project. I know last time I was here, I talked about having MS and doing a new minor at Conestoga College on a disability minor. And I talked about that with such enthusiasm and joy. And it is one of the best teaching experiences I've ever had for a host of reasons. But I want to go back further because what actually started that was the Hope Project. So I know I told you I have multiple sclerosis, and so did my mother. And my mother was somebody I had a really difficult time talking about. So much so that like people would say to me, on a scale of 0 to 10, you talk about your mother 0. Why? You know, and I was just like, I can't talk about her. And I didn't say that so much. I would change the subject, or I'd say, ask me another time. Or I just couldn't talk about her. And I couldn't talk about her because she had MS and she lost her memory. When I was 8 years old, I was taken out of school to look after her. We didn't have such a thing as PSWs back then, I guess. I don't know. And I nursed her and I did the house cleaning and I had to go and get groceries. I remember bringing groceries home on the bus, and they were old paper bags and I couldn't hold them and they would fall and they would break. And one very kind, very, very kind bus driver, I remember one time helped me carry my groceries from the bus to my house. He saw I was crying and he helped me. And, you know, I wish I could thank that man, but I was 8. I was 8 doing those things. And I was looking after my mother. And anyway, she was just horrifying to me. She was. She didn't know who I was. I mean, she would lock my sister and I out of the house and then call the police because she didn't know who we were when we were trying to get in, or I mean, she just didn't know who we were. It was very, very hard. And so when I was told I had MS, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be just like her. And I mean, it was bad enough, the physical part of her body, but it was the memory issues, I honestly thought as a kid, she was just being mean. I did. I thought she was just mean. I mean, that's how I didn't understand as a kid what was going on. And they didn't tell me for a while what was wrong with her either. And in fact, my father always told me she had schizophrenia. And my father was a psychologist. And so I thought, oh, she's crazy. She's literally crazy. And, you know, that's what it is when you mean, no, please don't hear me that's not what I think about schizophrenia, but that's what I thought as a kid. And as a psychologist, I would hear from him all the time about people were crazy who had schizophrenia. So for me, that's where that comes from as a child. And so when I found out I had MS, I thought, am I going to be crazy? Am I going to have this too? And what happened for me was the first and only time this is true, I became suicidal because I thought, I am not going to do this to the people I love. I am not going to forget who they are and to hurt them and to do weird things. I mean, my mother, like one time people moved in across the street and she took our silverware over there and gave it to them because she didn't trust us. And they, with great embarrassment, gave them back to my father. And I was like, I think this is yours. She was just embarrassing and awful. And I always felt bad as a kid that I thought she was embarrassing and awful, but I did. And my parents split when I was 12 and I lived with my father. And so the other piece of the puzzle is, so my mother was in her apartment by herself and she was driving and she didn't know where she was and she would get lost and she would have accidents and she didn't understand her license was taken from her and. So when I was 16, I actually had her committed because she was a danger to herself, but I had to go through I was 16 when I did that. So for me, yeah. So when I was 23, 3 and they started 22 and they started saying, we think you have MS. I was like, that's who I saw. So I was thinking, this is, I can't do this. And so I remember driving around looking for a place I could crash my car because I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't know how else to do this. I'm going to crash my car. But I'd think to myself, oh, if I crash on that, embankment, like for a bridge, will I knock down the bridge and kill people? Okay, I can't do that. If I hit this wall, oh, will somebody be on the other side of that wall? Will I kill them? And I was just so dark, though. I just didn't want to be here. And I described it like this. I described it as feeling like I was in this deep, dark hole. So dark that when I looked up, there was no light.
Wow.
But the thing was, I knew it was there. I just couldn't see it. Now, I realize in hindsight now that the depression I had was episodic, that I have no real understanding of what depression is in other ways, because I know a lot of people don't have that idea that somewhere the light is there like I did. I thought, I don't know why I knew that. I don't know where that came from. But so as I drove around thinking about crashing my car, I remember one day I pulled over and I just thought to myself, Laura Quirk, if you are worried about killing other people, maybe you just want to live. Maybe you just don't know how to live. And so it was sort of from that moment on that I started looking for ways to crawl out of this dark hole towards the light I knew was there. And I worked on that really, really hard. And so this is not going to sound like it's getting a long answer to the short question, Mark, but what happened for me was I did. I crawled out. And I remember thinking about 5 years ago, give or take, you know what? I need to write about this. Maybe I could help one person by telling them my story. And I thought what I wanted to do was just to write a book where I wrote the introduction and the first chapter. And then I got other people I knew to write their stories of hope. And I wanted to put this in a book. So I wrote my chapter about 5 years ago. And okay, I can't share that yet. And then in the last 5 years, I'd read it every now and then, pull it out and think, oh, not yet. Oh, not yet. And in April of last year, I remember pulling it out and reading it going, oh, it doesn't hurt. It's time. And it happens at Conestoga College. I was doing a different project. I mean, as things go with me, I'm doing projects about all kinds of things, and I'm thrilled right down to my socks I get to. And I was doing a different project with open education resources, which are free and on the internet and available. And there's a department at our college in the library doing that. And I always knew I wanted this to be free. I didn't want to make money off this project. I just wanted it to be free. And I always called it the Hope Project. But my chapter I called When Hope is All You Have Left. Because that's all I had left. I would have killed myself if it wasn't for the hope I knew was somewhere up there. And so anyway, in April, I approached the folks in the library and they immediately were interested. Long story short, I had to do a bunch of editing and making things so that it was useful to courses at the college. Like I had to come up with assignments that might be optional and questions we could ask students, etc. But in September, it was published. So it is now a thing on the internet. And so I called it the Hope Project, but really I'm now looking for other people to give their contributions and to tell their stories. And what I love, love, love is the college has agreed, doesn't have to be in writing. Maybe someone's an artist, or maybe they're a graphic novelist, or maybe they want to do music, or maybe I love that the college is willing for us to do whatever we want with it. And the college is also talking about me doing a podcast where I read my chapters and other people's stories each week. I don't know if that'll happen. It's just an idea. But anyway, for me, this Hope Project, in answer to your question, Marg, took incredible courage. At first, I felt like this is unbelievable. I can't do this. And then funnily enough, friends who've known me for 40 years and more have read the chapter and went, wow, I did not know this about you, Laura, because I didn't talk about it. And so what took courage for me was to share it with people who knows who's going to read this? It's free on the internet. Who knows? But yes, thank you. I was going to pull that up. Thank you so much. Well, show you where to do it. So and it's volume 1. I am the series editor, which I'm also really proud of. If other people put their stories in, this will all show up, but it's volume 1. And it is free on the internet. And so you're going to read some of what I've said about my journey in this, but it's a lot more about my mother, because it had to be, in talking about MS, as well as my own journey with MS. So yeah, so the Hope Project. And so I want to just add, though, what's so interesting was in April last year, when I realized I was ready, I realized it wasn't taking me courage anymore. It wasn't taking any courage at all. I'm just ready. It is. It's fine. But it's courage to write it in the first place. And even think for a minute that anyone would read it. And yet I really, really wanted that to be the case. So anyway, that was a long answer to your question, Mark.
Wow. I mean, just hearing about what you went through as a child, being pulled out of school at the age of 8 to look after your mother, who was behaving in a way that you couldn't understand as an 8-year-old, to be locked out of your house by your mother. I'm listening to all this and I'm like, how does a child even process any of that? Never mind grow up to get to a stage where they know that the light is there, even though they're still in a place of darkness. It's just like, wow, there's obviously something in you that you came here with, that the light within, right? We talk about that. We always talk about God within in New Thought movements. And it's like you just knew that there was that light and that hope. And I just marvel at that, like really fabulous, and that you could do something with it.
Well, Cheryl, I want to say to you, first of all, I absolutely believe that for whatever reason, I came into this world equipped. I have no idea why. I have no idea why I handled that as a child as well as I did. Now, I will tell you that how I handled it, though, I saw it as hell on earth, the family I was in, for a host of reasons. My mother was an alcoholic as well, and so was very, very...
It's understandable.
Yeah, it is. Well, actually, as an adult, I understand it, but as a child, I did not.
Yeah.
And so, but I remember thinking, I can do anything for a day. I can do this for a day. I can do this today. And then the next day I would think, I can do this for a day. I can do this for one day. I couldn't think really beyond a day each time, but I could do it for a day. And I did it. And then I knew I was going to leave home as soon as I finished high school. And I did. And I never went back. And, but for me, it's not because I'm thinking, woohoo, am I ever good?
Yeah.
I came in equipped, Cheryl. I don't know why. I don't know why. And I'm just grateful for it. So yeah, you're right. For some reason, I knew that. And I suppose the other piece of this puzzle that also got me to come out of that dark place was I didn't know what to do. So I remembered my mother's neurologist's name for some reason. And she'd been in the hospital when I was a child a number of times. But for some reason, I remember, it might be because I made brownies and took him to the hospital and he had some, I don't remember. But I remembered his name. And so I called him. And I said, hi, you don't know me. My mother had MS. She was your patient. And I'm just afraid I'm going to be like her. And I need to know, can you tell me anything about it? And he said, well, are you an alcoholic? And I said, no. He said, then you'll be fine. She pickled her brain and that was it. And he almost hung up. And I was just like, oh, but I'm not an alcoholic. So yay, okay. Maybe I'll be all right. And so it was an oddly freeing, although abrupt and weird conversation. It was oddly freeing because I thought, right. I mean, I had the same first symptoms that my mother did. I was blind in this eye. I had a left leg problem. So did she, in that order. And so I kept saying to myself, oh my God, I'm a genetic repeat.
Yeah.
But then I went, no, I'm not. I'm not an alcoholic. There you go. I'm not. And so as long as I'm never that, I'm okay. So anyway, I think you're right, though, in response to what you said. I just came in equipped. I don't know what else to say.
That's wonderful. And yeah, isn't that interesting? We just need to hear one thing from somebody else to release us, to release ourselves, because we're the ones that are doing all this thinking from that thought that I'm just like my mother, or you know. But the other thing that also what part of your story was when you realized that if you're worried about killing somebody else, maybe this is means something different. It means that you want to live. And I'm just like, and you were 22, I think you said.
23, I think, at that time. Yeah.
23. Again, like these moments, these are pivotal moments and so rich. And I'm so grateful that you get to share them. And really what that does for me is it gives me hope that somebody else will hear it and give them hope.
And this was exactly why I did this, Cheryl. And I kept thinking to myself, if I could help one person, just one,
Yeah.
that my story was worth it. My journey was worth it. I mean, it was worth it to me, but I kept saying to myself, like, I would not be the person I am today if I hadn't been through all these bizarre experiences. And I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice if I didn't have MS and other things, but I'm not sorry for the journey I'm on. And it's just so important for me to say, and if it helps one other person, yay, okay. And so long story short, I hope that that's what comes from the Hope Project. I really do.
Yeah, wonderful.
What stood out, one of the things that stood out that you said, Laura, was I can do this for a day. Segue into spirituality or whatever. That's, the reminder that this is what we have,
Right.
This moment, this day, and tomorrow will unravel as it will. But what you have is this moment, this day. So thank you for that reminder. By speaking up and out, do you think you are not only educating people, but validating and maybe being an advocate for others?
Yes, I hope so. I really do. It's funny, if I can just return to what you just said about doing anything for a day. What's interesting to me about all that I've been through, nearly dying twice from MS and having other things that have gone on, every day I'm glad I'm here. And it's the first thing I think every morning. And I think I said this last time, the first thing I think every morning is I'm still here. And I am keenly aware of how wonderful every day is. So I think, yeah, like I just live for this day. I've never been a dreamer. I mean, I think about ideas about things I have, but I'm just living today, right this minute, right now. That's all I have. And I think I'm going to live a richer, fuller life than most people, knowing my own mortality. And it has really made a difference to that. And then answering your question, Mark, is I think the students I have will often say to me that I inspire them to want to live, happier, better, brighter. They have forever said to me, since I've been in a position of teaching, that I'm so positive and I'm so excited about things, and it makes them feel that way. And now that I'm doing this disability minor course, the Why Normal Sucks, for those who missed last one, it's sucks, SUCKS, Why Normal Sucks is the name of the course. I find it's like I'm just touching something so rich and deep in my students. They want to know that normal sucks, that they want to know they're okay and normal. And I'm saying, look, you can be an advocate. You can fight for what you think is important. And in fact, their assignment they have for me right now is looking at websites on topics they're interested in to try to figure out how to advocate into who they're supporting and why. And again, part of the journey, understanding that. So yeah, if I can inspire anybody in those regards, that is deeply what I hope I can do as a professor. I mean, it doesn't matter what information I can stick in their heads. What matters is what they understand, and it matters what they take and
what they
experience.
feel, right?
Yes, I mean, that's what matters. And indeed, students often tell me that the assignments I have make them think and apply the knowledge, and they feel like I don't examine, but I don't care what you can memorize. I don't care about that at all. I care about what you understand. And so they tell me all the time that they feel, I don't know why my dog is barking. My apologies.
Okay.
But yeah, I think about that all the time. Like, how can I help you apply and understand this deeply? Who cares what you can memorize? I know you can memorize. You got this far. What I do care about is what you understand. And so, just
Mhm.
Joy. Her name is
Your
Joy.
dog's barking because it's excited, like I am, to hear that.
You're
Because
sweet,
I really testing me on memory. I'm gonna fail.
right?
Rather test me on what I understand or what I feel I know or can connect with or relate to, right? So that's why the dog barked. It felt my energy. I was like, yes.
Maybe she did. She certainly is joyful. Her name is Joy. Maybe that's what
Yeah.
it was. Yeah.
There's one thing that I wanted to say based on what you said, your impression of someone and what you heard your father say, but your impression of somebody with schizophrenia was a crazy person. So as an adult, being your very close friend and having a challenge with depression and my experience of your support with me, I never felt like I was crazy. Just being with a friend who loved me and felt very supported by me, by you. Yeah.
Always there. It's not even in my thinking. I'm not
Mhm.
like it's not in my head to think,
Mhm.
well, my friend is out of her mind. It's just that I saw my mother be that way, right? So
Mhm.
when he
Yeah.
applied the term schizophrenia, I thought, well, that must be what schizophrenia is because she
Yeah.
is out of her mind. I mean, the
Yeah.
stuff he would do was
Yeah.
crazy. Like literally going across the street and giving perfect strangers our silverware, literally our silverware, and
Mhm.
but it was so many things. She disappeared for a
Mhm.
while. We had to go, we put out missing persons for her, and she just jumped on a plane and went to Florida. I don't know why,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's just, but yeah. And
Oh,
she would have police come to take me out of class at school because I'd run away. I was just at school. Like, I mean, talk about embarrassing. She did stuff that was just
Mm.
embarrassing. So,
Mm.
but Mark, dear, my friend, I just
Yeah.
love you for who you are, whatever that means, and that's just how it is.
We're gonna break.
Most days.
We're going to break in a couple of minutes, but before we do, I just want to go back to you said something about the course that you're doing and how meaningful it is to your students. And remind me what it's called. That
Why
minor
normal sucks.
box, why normal sucks, and how they relate and how it's connecting them. And for me, that's a microcosm of the macrocosm. I think you've touched on a point that is obviously something that I think more of us need to hear, and be able to talk about. Um, so yeah, and this is one of the reasons that we do this show, is to be able to bring some of that to a public platform where we can have these conversations and talk about these difficult things. And so my heart, it opens, and feels for these, I'm going to say kids, I mean they're adults, but kids, because I know what they're going through and what so many other people are going through that we just never talk about.
That's right.
So I think on that note, let us take a quick 2-minute break, and we can come back and start talking about what we don't talk about. And so don't go away. This is a 2-minute break. We just going to go and get a coffee or a glass of water or some tea, or just sit and enjoy the wonderful music and graphics that New Thought Media Network have put together. And we'll see you shortly.
It was a treat. It was a bonding. It was a celebration of men. It was a celebration of men who want to deepen in their spiritual awareness of one another, of themselves.
Welcome. We are a brotherhood of spiritually minded and open-hearted positive men. We invite you to join us.
And I came in knowing one person, I left knowing all of the group. And I feel like I came in knowing meeting strangers, but knowing and leaving brothers.
Come experience the New Thought Men's Gathering, Foundations 2024. Friday, March 15th through Sunday, March 17th. With Reverend Robert Brzezinski, Reverend Patrick Creelman, Reverend Eamon Duffy, and special guest musician Jamie Lula. In Vernonia, Oregon, at Camp Cedar Ridge. Learn more and register at www.newthoughtmens.community.
Welcome back. So before we left, we touched on the things that we don't talk about that I think people are crying out inside to talk about. And I'll say for myself, I feel that at times that the things that I want to talk about, and I feel too vulnerable. I feel I'll be judged. I'll be criticized. Sometimes I'll be in a group where, well, this is not about me, so I'm not going to share that here. So just, wondering if you can share what are the kinds of things you hear from your students that they don't normally talk about, but feel they can in your class.
Okay, if I start crying, don't be surprised. The students have been unbelievable. I have 44 in my class right now. They like 39, 40, 42 show up. I mean, it's unreal for an elective, as I told you, and that's continued. That's not stopped. And they're they're writing me emails, they're writing reflections, they're telling me in class, and I've started collecting some of the things that they've said. They're telling me things like they feel heard, that they feel like that their own stories are being represented, that they are feeling like, oh my God, you're right, normal does suck, and there's no such thing as normal. I mean, at first I had some pushback, students going, oh, come on, Laura, I think there's such a thing as normal. And now they're going, there isn't any such thing as normal, actually. And they're really starting to understand why I called the course that. And I had yesterday, my class is on Tuesday nights, and this is Wednesday. So for wherever you are, it's Wednesday now. Last night was my class, and it's a night class. And I talked about sexuality, gender, and disability. And I didn't have a speaker, don't have a speaker for every class, but this one I showed 2 TED Talks. And one of the TED Talks was about somebody who is intersex. And if you're not familiar with what intersex means, it's a person who has the biology of both men and women. So they might have a penis and a vagina. They might have testes and a vagina. They might have hormones that are more like, instead of being, we have XY hormones, they might have XYY hormones, they might have extra, they might have extra testosterone. There was a story in 2016 Olympics where one of our athletes tested really high with testosterone and was told to drop her drawers and prove she didn't have a penis. And, things like, and this is a thing. And it turns out 1 to 2% of the population is intersex. And so it could be hormones, it could be DNA, it could be having physical body parts. And so when we say, well, what defines a man? Well, a man is a penis. Well, what if a woman has a penis, or a large clitoris, and so it's almost a penis. And anyway, we talked about that last night, and many of my students had not heard of intersex, or they just weren't as familiar with how common it was. I did have a student tell me in a note to me that they are intersex, and it's the first time they have ever in their education had anybody talk about it and say it was a thing. And considering it's 1 to 2% of the population, I mean, the speaker said that's as common as someone having red hair. Like, all of us know people with red hair.
Yeah.
Well, if we think about how common it actually is, and we don't talk, even the LGBTQ plus community often don't talk about it, even though people think of it as part of that community. They don't talk about it. And again, how do I know that? I had a number of students last night come out to me in the class. I mean, it is a safe space. They tell me they can say things, and I, of course, never say names, obviously, and they said, in spite of the fact that they're in this community, they don't know anybody who's intersex. No one has ever told them they're intersex. No one has ever talked about being intersex. And this student told me they've never come forward and told anybody.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, oh my God, this opportunity that I'm being given to have students talk about their experience in life, and to feel safe and to feel heard. And there's so many stories. Cheryl, I've started collecting. I promise anyone, if you are my students listening to this, apparently some of my students looked at the last time we did this together. I'm never going to say names, but I've been collecting some of the things you've told me and the students, and I'm doing it because of a person who said to me, this course, no one would want to take it. It's not worth it. I'm going to prove to them that it is, because of the things that we're getting as feedback. And so life changing, they're telling me, and they're telling me it feels safe, and it feels, and then they're telling their friends now. They were telling me, when are you offering it next? Because now I'm telling my friends and they want to take this class. And we're supposed to have 40 students. I had 45, but originally one student had to drop their program and didn't want to drop my course. And it's, you got to drop both, but it's, so I have 44, and they're showing up and they're talking about it. And they're saying to me, I was telling my family about this, and I was telling my friends about this. And it's just,
if anything, it sounds to me like this is most necessary, and more classes should be like this. There should be more opportunities for anybody to be able to come together in a group and feel the same safety and security in being able to open up and share like they are doing with you.
I wish that. I mean, I try to always have my classes where my students feel open and welcome and they can say anything, because there's nothing off the table for me. But I've never had this level of personal pride. I mean, I told them my story in the second class because I wanted them to understand why I was teaching this course and why I understand why normal sucks.
Right.
And, and I said to them, I understand this being othered and just anyway, the students, because I did that, are saying they can talk to me, they can share their stories because they know I get it, whatever it is, and so I'm, I don't know if that's answering your question, dear, but it's been, wow.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the one thing I didn't say before the break, which I'd like to say now, is how the Hope Project led to this course development. And it's been so strange. I mean, since last April, I put out the Hope Project, or I say I want to put out the Hope Project. over the summer, my boss, I had to tell my boss that I was doing this, even though I wasn't asking for time. I didn't want anyone to pay me. I was just saying I'm doing this. And he said to me, well, great. And then we started talking about doing this disability minor, which was, we first talked about it in July, and I'm already teaching the first course for it. And there's 4 in the series. You can't see my fingers, 4. I'm losing track of where you are in the camera. 4. I don't have to put up my fingers for this. And so what's so cool is this is the first one. And it was just a run through to see if it worked.
Wow.
And clearly it worked. So we're going to launch it, I'm assuming, fully in the fall as a minor, but we're also going to offer the second course for the first time in the fall. But I mean, I don't know. You probably have no idea. These things don't go this fast. Development doesn't happen this fast. But I just developed the course and here it is already. Like it was in my head, in my heart. I did it and it's.
I think we should be doing this at all levels of education. Just my opinion.
Yes, so do I.
This
is a degree level course.
Questions.
It could be anywhere. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
That's okay. I have 2 questions and perhaps you won't even have an answer, but it's, things going around in my mind. So I wonder why there was resistance to having this course. Was it fear-based? Like, you may not have an answer, right? This is just thoughts going through my mind. Why didn't someone want this to go through? Was it fear-based on their part? And it's obviously very well attended. So I wonder why your students were interested in attending this class. Like, what inspired them to attend this class that somebody didn't think would be received?
Well, two different questions. And so the first one, I think, was because so there's EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion, which is the sort of catchphrase thing everyone's talking about. And so when I proposed that we do this disability minor, it was suggested that no, we need an EDI minor. We don't need this disability minor. And I'm like, yeah, we need this disability minor. And fortunately, I had the support of the curriculum development people, particularly one person who said, see, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but to do degrees at the college, we have these degree quality assurance things we have to do periodically with the Ontario government to prove that we're doing things at the degree level. Universities don't have to do this, but colleges do. And so in order to do a new program, we have to jump through all kinds of hoops to get them to do that. And so the person in curriculum said, look at Laura, if we have a minor, which we don't have to ask the government for to do a minor. So if we have this minor, we can prove that there's value and it's necessary. This minor could become part of a major program in EDI. Wow. And so as soon as we talked about that and I said that to the higher ups, they went, oh, okay, maybe. But then they were like, still, who's going to want to take this? So it was really interesting that was that pushback. So why was there pushback? I just don't. I'm going to be guessing.
I think fear.
So I don't know if it's fear. I think it was. Try to find the politically correct word to say this. I just think it was just not having knowledge about what this could be doing. Let's leave it there. I don't think it's fair at all. I think it was simply, I think it was just not a knowledge of what it could do. And I was sure I knew what it could do, and I think it's right. So, and then why did the students take this course? Funny, I asked in the very first class, I introduced myself and I said, look, and I know that there's 45 of us in this class at the time. I know this is a hard number to think of as an intimate small group, but I would like us to try. And so I said, I'm telling you why I'm doing this. So I gave them a very brief synopsis about why I did this course. And I said, I'd like you to go around and introduce yourself and tell me why you're here. Like, what do you think you're going to get out of this? And oh my goodness, I had the most beautiful answers. I had a couple of them said, well, I take anything you teach, Laura. So that was sweet. So that was really just a few. I mean, in the class of 45, I think maybe 10 I've had before. So it's not like that was the answer. I mean, sometimes students just like taking your courses, and fair enough. And some of them said that. But some of them said they liked the title, and the title caught their attention. But then they read what the course description was, which essentially says, are you normal? How do you know what's normal? Who gets to decide what's normal? And I say, in this class, we're going to unpack what is normal and discover that everyone has value. Everyone is important. And, essentially it says, this is what we're going to figure out, is that there's no such thing as normal, and that everybody is worthy.
Mhm.
And so some of them said it's the description that got them. And some of them said, look, and I have a number of students in the Bachelor of Community and Criminal Justice. And that's the biggest group of people I have. They're going to be our future police officers. They work in the community. They are going to be doing all kinds of things. And they're beautiful human beings. They all are, of course.
Yeah.
And so they were saying this fit in their course. But I have some students, there's no but, and I have some students from a Bachelor of Interior Design course, for instance. This course was not offered to them, but they heard I was doing it and asked if they could get in. And now that they're taking it, they're saying, oh my God, Laura, everyone should be forced to take this course, because even in our design, we need to be thinking about disability and what's normal. And I have students who are in the early learning program that likely will be our future teachers of our youngsters and in public school. And they think it should be a required course now that we're going through it.
Yeah.
But look, I've got students in business, like all kinds of things, and they're going, hey, you know what? This is really going to be valuable to my future career. And so I had some of those answers. I had maybe a third of them, not really sure at that time, have said, look, I know someone with a disability. I have a disability. Only one identified as having a disability that day, though many have since told me that they have disabilities of various kinds. But so some of them, it was just, I think I need to know this. And so, it was a whole host of reasons that they took this course. But they took it for a reason. Even the ones who said, well, I take anything you take, they've later said to me, and it looked really good. Like it looked like a good course. And so I think it did too. And I, as I said last time, I didn't think I was going to be able to keep this name of this course, because I came up with some, I thought, great names for courses before, and they were like, no. Like, okay, I can say this here. I developed the only gender course we have, and I wanted to call it Balls, Dolls, and Walls.
Yeah.
Because, like what like
Yeah.
gender.
Sounds.
Yeah. And anyway, no, they kiboshed that. But I didn't think I was going to get through why normal sucks, but I'm very glad I did, because it really caught their attention. Well, and that wasn't actually what caught them sometimes. It was just, and then what I said about it and what they thought we were going to do was really what was valuable. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think it's an amazing DIE course. Absolutely. It fits into diversity, inclusiveness, and equity.
I know.
How does that not fit? Like, wow, right?
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. But you see, it will. And so I think if we ultimately do this in a bigger program, then I think it will be ideal. Yeah. But anyway, I came to this whole idea of doing this course because I had the courage, as we talked about before, to publish my Hope Project. I did not see this coming. I did not see any of this coming. And even my, okay, I'm ready to do this moment, I did not see I was going to get it published within a matter of a few months. I just didn't see that coming. And but I think when you open yourself up and say, yes.
Yeah.
I called this, I don't know how many times poor Margaret's heard me say this, but last year was my year of yes. I just decided I was going to say yes to things and see what happened. And careful what you ask for. Because wow. But it was my year of yes. So that was only one thing. You may be interesting or not to. Not only did I have all this fantastic, beautiful things that happened in my job, for the very first time last November, my blood work was perfectly normal, and the first time in 30 years. I'd never had normal blood work. Like, what? My body chemistry is following suit for the year of yes. So I don't know. I'm just yay. Like life is good.
That just shows you, right? It's so interesting because I have just been watching the movie called The Field. And it's I found it, I don't know where I found it, maybe on Greg Braden's YouTube channel, but it's called The Field, and it's it really is about how everything is energy. And the last thing that I just saw was this experiment on sound and how it affects the blood.
Yeah.
And
I believe
so now you bring that up, and so that's why immediately I'm like, that means that the resonance around you, the vibration within you, is what's bringing your blood back to normal.
Cheryl, the doctors have forever said they cannot explain me because I've just gotten better. And now, yeah, okay, I have MS. I have asthma from MS. I have diabetes. And if you ask me, I've never been healthier. You know, it's so strange, but it's true. To look at me, you would never know any of those things. And I think I've just decided to be healthy. So I think you're right. I think I believe the same as you, that we are energy. That is what we are. I am humming at some ridiculously great level. And I am grateful, deeply grateful for my ability to heal and my ability to do whatever I've been able to do to get through. So yeah, I don't know what that means about the why, but I don't need to know. I'm just grateful.
And that's fabulous. And that comes back to what I said last time as well, is that you're a living example of what some of us are studying, and you don't even know it.
Well, I don't know it. I think I told you I had a friend who keeps telling me that he was the one who told me I understand mindfulness. Do you know what? I don't know. I've just I don't see. I mean, some people have said to me, look, I've been here many times before, apparently. And so I came in equipped. I don't know what the reason is. I'm just deeply grateful for it.
Yeah. And you don't need to know, right? I mean, that might just get in the way of it all.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. I don't need to know. I do know that I am lucky. And I don't even like the word lucky.
No.
Blessed. I feel very blessed. I'm grateful. I'm very, very grateful.
And grateful is very powerful. That too in itself is very powerful. And we know that too, right?
You know, it's interesting, Laura, when I think about the name of your class, Why Normal Sucks, and nothing is normal.
Right.
However, what I see the contents of, it's your normalizing
being
abnormal, right? So, you know, as an example, I think I mentioned earlier that I was a guest at one of your classes and spoke about my experience with depression. And what I heard from you, without you sharing any names, was it was normalizing some of your students' lived experience. So your Why Normal Sucks and everything is not normal, it normalized it. So did anybody follow that?
Yeah. It normalizes not being normal, being okay.
Well, last night I said that to my students about normalizing, and they called me on it. Laura, you don't think anything's normal, and I was like, yeah, but I don't have a better word than normalizing. But we are trying to normalize what's like. It's great. It's okay to be whoever you are, whatever that means, in whatever context, and as long as it is following the laws of the land, you know, knock yourselves out. I think it's great, and even frankly, sometimes I think the laws are ridiculous, but I won't go there. But I think, you know, we just need to be ourselves.
Next show.
Yeah. Okay. I want to keep my job, so maybe I better not.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Honestly, the work that you're doing is wonderful. I feel gratitude that you have opened the door for this kind of work in the college, and really hope that it expands and grows and goes further out into the community, because I think it is so important. And just again, you know, kudos to you for having the courage, because sometimes we need to take that big step, that leap of I wanted to say, I was going to say leap of faith, but it's leap of knowing, because you knew and you didn't, even though the others around you doubted, your knowing is what drove you to say, no, this is a good thing.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm pretty strong. I if I think something and I just, it's not like I want to railroad anybody else, but if I think something, I'm going to fight for it. And this was something I thought was worth fighting for. Absolutely. And I do. I mean, it is not just me. I mean, the wonderful thing is I've had support from people at the college. I'm working with some wonderful people to develop these courses that we're doing for the students, and the students are just so wonderful. I mean, they've always been wonderful. I love my job. I one time had a faculty member say to me, "Do you find our students belligerent?" And I said, "Never once, never once." Yeah. And so, it's just, are you belligerent is what I wanted to say. But I think our students are respectful and wonderful and thoughtful and lovely. And I am just deeply grateful that I'm having this opportunity, deeply. And right person at the right time.
Yeah, and when I hear the professions of the people, or the professions that they're working towards, I'm like, yes, because they do need to. So we are coming to the end of the show. So Laura, what if there was one thing you wanted people to take away from today's show, what would that be?
Well, if we're looking at the Hope Project as our basis of which we're talking about today, I suppose what I would want to say is that I hope that you have hope at your darkest place, and that no matter how dark you go, that there is light up there, even if you can't see it. And I do understand that that's impossibly hard for people to understand in the deepest, darkest place. Believe me, I do. But it is there. If you can just be patient and wait, if you just look for it, it will come. That's what I would say.
Beautiful. Thank you. Marg.
I will echo what Laura said. No, there is hope. Hold on to it. And don't be afraid of the question. Laura had the question, can I do it? Should I do it? And yes, I'm going to do it. So live your faith, I guess. Yeah. I think that's the word you use, Cheryl, faith, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm going to encourage people to do is, because I do believe that, life is an ebb and flow. And so we do go up and down. And when we're in that down place, just to remember the wise words of Laura Quirk, I can do this for a day. That's all I need to do is do this for a day. And that leads to hope, right? I can do this for a day, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for watching. Please like, follow, and share. And thank you to New Thought Media Network for hosting this show. I don't know if anybody knows, but we volunteer. New Thought Media Network doesn't charge us. So please feel free, if you feel called, to make a donation to New Thought Media Network. And we hope to see you next week. And Laura, I'm sure we will have you again.
Yeah.
So thanks so much. It's been
and love to Barbara.
Wonderful. Yes,
Barbara will be
Barbara. Oh, and one more thing. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener. Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa. Satya Center. Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey. Unity of Savannah. And Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle. As well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.